Hey guys, and welcome back to this week's video. And this week I'm going to be running you through my 3-day food freedom reset. Now, the reason that I'm doing this is because food freedom is not something that a lot of people have. It is something that a lot of people aspire to have, but due to society, diet culture, always being bombarded with what people are eating, what people are doing, all of the above, I think that kind of a real perception of what food freedom looks like and what normal eating looks like has been lost along the way. So we're going to go through exactly what food freedom is, how you're going to achieve it, and things that you can do over the next 3 days to reset your mind and get you on the path to full food freedom. So first things first, when we talk about food freedom, to me, food freedom is losing the food noise. It's being able to eat the foods that you love without any guilt. It's being able to have a cookie and stop eating after one because you're satisfied, not then eating the whole pack because you feel like you have to before you then cut it out again. It's being able to go out for food and have whatever you want without stressing about how it's going to impact you later on or how it's going to impact your journey or feeling like you then need to restrict later on. It's basically about not having to think about food in a negative light 24/7 and instead just being at peace with it. Because I know how it feels to think about food all the time and always think about calories and the numbers and how it's going to throw you off and how it's going to impact things and how everything, like all of it, and it's exhausting and it's not how you're meant to live. We were never meant to be this aware of the number of calories in foods. Dieting was never meant to be the focus of our lives, and that is what it has become, and it's not okay. So the majority of women, especially, obviously some men, but it is more so women, due to like media and stuff, don't have food freedom because we were always told to eat this, not eat this, be careful if you eat this is bad for you, this is going to cause you to gain weight, don't eat carbs, don't eat fats because it's going to make you fat, don't have too much sugar, don't have any junk food, only eat whole foods. We were literally bombarded with so many different opinions and different things to do with food that it's no wonder that no one has a clue what they're actually meant to be eating. We have been conditioned to believe that the only goal from food is to achieve fat loss, when that is not the case whatsoever. And actually, fat loss isn't something that should be on your mind all of the time. It's not even something that should really be on your mind much of the time because it should be a thing that you can do, get out of, and then go and live your normal life. So it doesn't need to feel overwhelming, okay? It doesn't. So this is going to be all about getting you reset and getting you unstuck. The first thing that I want you to remind yourself, okay, the first thing, and this is a really quick win that you can get, is to just know that you're in full control. Just know that any thoughts, any feelings, anything like that, you can override them. That is the biggest thing I want you to remember, is you are always in control. And that is going to be so relevant with everything that I kind of go through now. So day one, let's just say that's today, let's say it's tomorrow, whatever you are going to do. The first thing that you're going to do, the first action that you're going to implement is a meal structure. Now, the majority of us don't actually know when we're hungry. We don't know when we're craving. We don't know when we're just bored. We don't know what we actually need. We don't know how to fuel our bodies. We don't know any of these things because, like I said, everything is about numbers and eat this but don't eat this and eat this and don't eat this, and oh, if you're having that means that you should skip lunch, and oh, if you're going to have this, or you're going out for lunch and that means you should skip breakfast. And what that has meant is that we have completely lost all semblance of, okay, but what do we actually need? What do our bodies need? How do we fuel our bodies? What are we meant to eat? Like, we have completely lost sight of all of these things, and that is the first thing that we need to re-find. Because often it's not that you don't have control around food, it's often that you will not eat, or you'll starve yourself because of a certain event or something, and then in that event you'll then overeat because you're absolutely starving. Then you feel completely out of control, and then you're like, well, actually, how do I eat? Because if I can't control myself around these meals, then having more food is just going to mean that I'm eating even more, and do you know what I mean? It just gets into one big spiral. So the first thing that I want you to do is make sure that you have a structure to your meals. So what is this going to do? This is going to mean that 3 intervals throughout the day. And if you're sat there thinking, I don't eat breakfast, you do eat breakfast. Breakfast is whatever meal breaks your fast. You could have that 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That is still technically your breakfast, yeah? Whatever you're having, whatever breaks your fast, that is your breakfast. That's all I'm going to say. So if you are eating 3 meals a day where you are getting in protein, carbs, nutrients, and some healthy fats, you are then going to be ensuring that you're giving your body a really good amount of protein. You're giving your body some really good nutrients. You're giving your body some really good energy for your day. You're giving your body some healthy fats for more energy, for your hormonal health, for your heart health, for your literal health. If you are doing that, you are also going to be ensuring that through eating those carbs, that protein, those nutrients, that volume, volume, you are keeping your body satiated. So you're satisfied with what you're having. Which then means that hunger is going to be so much more manageable, because rather than then going, oh, okay, well, I'm going to be eating dinner in like 3 hours, so I don't really need lunch now, and then eating 15 digestive biscuits in the meantime because you're absolutely starving, you're then going to be able to go, actually, do you know what? I know that my next meal is in an hour and I've only eaten 3 hours ago. So actually I'm feeling quite satisfied. You reduce that need for any snacks. You don't then get overly starving because you're not giving yourself enough time to do so. And you know, if you're working, let's just say you've got a longer day. So for example, I don't generally eat breakfast until like 10:30, 11 o'clock. That is my first meal. I'll then have my lunch around kind of like 3 o'clock, and then I'll normally have dinner at like 8 or 9. So generally, because there is that gap and I'm never going too long without meals, I don't generally then need to snack. Sometimes I'll have like a 6 p.m. snack, but other than that, I don't really snack because I don't feel the need to, because my food satisfies me, my meals satisfy me, and I look forward to them. Whereas when you're, you know, skipping breakfast and then you're trying to get through to lunch and you're snacking, or, you know, you're having lunch and then you're trying to get through till, you know, you're having your lunch at 12 and then you're trying to get through till dinner at like 8 o'clock without eating anything, of course you're going to be starving. So what I want you to try and do is really think about, okay, the actual structure of my meals. How can I get those things into every single meal and put them at intervals that mean that I'm going to then not be starving? I'm not going to be hungry. I'm going to be energized. I'm going to feel more fulfilled. I'm going to feel more satisfied, and I'm going to make it's so much easier to actually want to eat well. Regardless of fat loss, regardless of anything, a meal structure is so important. So I want you to make sure that in 80% plus of your meals, you are using the following structure. So you've got 1 serving of protein that is roughly the size of your palm. You've got 1 serving of carbs that is roughly the size of your fist. You've got a serving of nutrients that is a big handful. And then you've also got a serving of healthy fats that is roughly the size of your thumb. If you can ensure that in roughly 80% plus of your meals, you are following this meal structure, you are going to be ensuring that, like I said, you're giving your body the goodness that it needs. You're giving your body fuel, you're giving it the nutrients, you're giving it everything that it needs. And it's then so much easier to actually then go, right, I'm hungry, I'm craving something. It's so much easier to then differentiate what your body wants. So you're getting in your protein, which is going to help with your recovery. It's going to help with your satiation. It's going to help with your hormonal health. It's going to help with literally everything. Everyone needs protein, not just people who train. It's going to help with your muscle mass. It's going to help with your skin, your hair, your nails. And it's not just muscle mass if you're training, but as you get older, your muscle mass is going to decrease. Eating enough protein means that you are maintaining as much muscle mass as possible for as long as possible. Your carbs, these are going to give you energy. You need energy. Your body needs energy to survive. You need energy to get through your day. Healthy fats, again, they're a source of energy. Fats are so important for your hormonal health. They're important for your general health, your eyes, your heart, your everything. You need your healthy fats, your nutrients, you need your micronutrients, your vitamins, your minerals. Your body needs these things to function correctly. This is not just about, you know, losing fat or whatever. This is about you actually being healthy and looking after yourself, because you literally get one body. So when you give your body all the goodness that it needs, it makes it a lot easier to differentiate between hunger, between cravings, between boredom, everything. And I will put up a little list as well here of what to kind of like eat. So what sources you can pick from each list to obviously put together like a meal with. The mindset shift then that I want you to think about on this day. So I want you to look at that meal structure and I want you to plan your meals for the day following that meal structure. What I also want you to do is continually remind yourself that this is about fueling your body. This is not about eating unhealthy foods or eating as little as possible. It's about giving your body everything that it needs for your health, for your wellness, for your longevity, for your life. So the first shift is to really recognize that your body needs fuel. And I can promise you, if you do this for a few days, you will feel such a difference and you'll be like, oh my God, actually, yeah, like this does feel so good. But this is the first shift, is recognizing that your body does actually need fuel. It's not just about how little calories can you eat. So not eating or eating irregularly is going to play absolute havoc on your hormones. It's going to play havoc with your blood sugars, your cravings, your hunger, your fullness, everything, your hormones, your mood, everything. And obviously this generally then makes it harder to fill up, because then you generally do reach for like less nutritious foods which are more calorie dense. They don't have much volume to them. They're not going to keep you very full for long. And it's just, yeah. So today I want you to really think about following that meal structure and saying no to diet mentality. So what I mean by that is going, I am not doing this because I'm trying to eat as little as possible. I'm not doing this just because I'm trying to lose fat. I'm doing this to give my body the fuel that it needs. Because once you can start to recognize that your body needs fuel, and that is actually the ultimate goal, no matter what any other goal is, the ultimate goal is fueling your body. When you can recognize that, it can literally change the game. So every time you plan, you prep, or you eat a meal, I want you to tell yourself, you're doing this in line with the future version of you. You're doing this in line with the future version of you who no longer has to think about food all the time. You're doing it with that version of you who is her healthier self. She's her fitter self. She's her happier self because her body is thriving. She is healthy. She is doing everything that she needs to, and you are acting in accordance with that now. Because to become that version of you, you have to be that version of you. And if any doubts start to creep in at any point and you're thinking, oh, what if I'm eating too much? What if this isn't right? What if I'm on too many carbs? I want you to literally call yourself out and be like, no, this is why we're doing this. We're doing this to break the dieting cycle, and doing that means getting uncomfortable. Day 2, your challenge today is to eat without guilt. So what I want you to do today is I want you to have something like a snack or some sort of something in your meal, or maybe even a meal that you generally wouldn't have in the week because you're trying to be good or because you're trying to restrict. So I want you to have something that maybe you would keep more towards the weekend. Maybe you would keep it for a certain day and then you'd end up overeating it. Maybe you would tell yourself you're not allowed it and then later down the line you end up eating 3 times as much of it. That's what I really want you to think of, is what would you normally not have because you would be scared that would kind of like lead to escalation. And I want you to eat that food today without guilt. I want this to be a challenge to yourself, and prove to yourself that you can do it. Prove to yourself that nothing's going to happen if you have that chocolate bar in the week. And actually, when you have that chocolate bar, when you're craving it and you give your body the thing, you then stop thinking about it. You don't then think about it for the next 3 to 5 working days until you have it on the weekend, and then you eat 10 times as much of it because you're absolutely starving, and then you feel guilty for it, and you go through and then you restrict it, and then you go through the whole cycle again. So I want you to implement this thing into your day without it meaning something about you. So I do not want you to make it mean something about you. When you're doing it, when you're having it, I want you to think, this is me breaking the dieting cycle. This is me proving to myself that I can eat foods that I typically wouldn't eat during the week, and I can stay in full control of them, and nothing bad is going to happen. I want you to eat it, enjoy it, and if you are worried about kind of like overeating it, pre-portion it out, and always remember you're always in control. And I want you to literally say to yourself, I am going to eat this chocolate, cake, whatever it may be, because I can. Because I'm in full control and I am building a positive relationship with food. And if it feels uncomfortable, good. Because that is where change is going to come from. Change, food freedom, is not going to come from continuing to restrict. It's not going to come from continuing to be stuck in a dieting cycle and continuing to do the things that you have been doing. And more often than not, as soon as you give yourself the thing that you want, you will stop thinking about it. Often we only think about foods because we are restricting them. So like, for example, whenever I've been in dieting phases, I will have cravings for most things because I know that maybe they're not easy to fit into my, into my calories, into my macros. So generally I'll kind of have less of them. But as soon as I am out of that dieting mindset, as soon as I'm out of that dieting phase and I'm in like a maintenance phase, I no longer want those things, because you'll be amazed that as soon as you allow yourself to have those things, the cravings for them do reduce, because they're not then something that's like bad or that you shouldn't have, but instead they're just there. They're something that you can have if you want to. And honestly, it is life-changing. So the mindset shift that I want you to focus on today is making peace with foods. So what I really want you to do is challenge your ideas around good foods, bad foods, and what you should be having and shouldn't be having on certain days and things like that. And I really want you to think about, like, there are no good or bad. There are simply more nutritious and less nutritious foods. And there is a place for all of those foods within our diets. So for example, things like eating that extra snack while still then staying in control of your meals and having what you need in your meals and fueling your body in your meals is you proving to yourself you can do both and you can stay in control. Because there are no good or bad. Like, balance is everything. And balance doesn't also just mean over a 24-hour period. So for example, I would say my diet is very, very balanced, but there are some days in which I probably don't eat a piece of fruit, or I don't eat vegetables, or I barely eat any protein. I'm still balanced because consistently, majority of the time, I hit all my protein, I hit all my nutrients, and I get all my carbs in, I get everything I need to. So it's not just over a 24-hour period. It's not just about like, oh yeah, your meals are good and then you've got a snack or this. Like, if you go on holiday and you don't, eat much nutrients over the week, that doesn't mean that you're not balanced, because it's about the things that you do consistently that actually make a difference. So today I really want you to kind of try and make peace with foods and really just try and challenge your own thoughts around food as well. So if you find yourself thinking like, oh, I shouldn't have that, almost think about like, okay, but why shouldn't I have that? Why shouldn't I? What is it that's making me think that, and why am I thinking like that? And also, how can I challenge that as well? Because remember, there are no good or bad foods. And I really want you to keep reminding yourself of that. Like, there is no good and there's no bad. Like, yes, there's more nutritious and there's less nutritious. Of course there is. And yes, sometimes you are going to need to kind of rein yourself in over certain foods, so to speak. But if you're looking for food freedom, labeling foods as good or bad it's never going to get you anywhere. So day 3, 2 challenges for you today. Number 1 is an awareness practice. Now, often we will be in situations where maybe we're bored, maybe, for whatever reason, like your routine's changed a little bit. Maybe you're going to actually want, you're going to want a snack even though you've had all your normal meals. And this is where awareness is absolutely huge, because changing your relationship with food and food freedom is not an overnight fix. It's not. It is going to be a continuous thing of challenging your own thoughts, pushing outside of your comfort zone, challenging those thoughts, learning those lessons, changing your beliefs, transforming your mindset, building your confidence, building your trust, and doing that over time. It's not going to look like this. It is literally going to be a journey that goes up and down like this. And part of that obviously includes awareness around your fullness cues, your hunger cues. And sometimes you're going to want a snack even though you're not hungry. And that is okay. What is really, really important here to note is, so for example, I've got a desk job. I sit at my desk majority of the day. Sometimes I will get bored and I'll be like, oh, I really fancy this. Sometimes I will just go and have that thing. But then sometimes I will be like, actually, do I need that, or am I just really bored? So what I'll often then do is do something different. So I'll go into a different room. I'll go and, do the washing, or I'll go and wash the dishes, or I'll go and change my environment for 5 to 10 minutes. And when I come back, I'll go get a drink. And when I come back, then I'll be like, right, do I still want that thing? Often it's not that we want the thing, it's just that we want it in that circumstance. And when we remove ourselves from that environment and bring ourselves back into it, then we don't really want it. Now, obviously, like I just said, there's going to be times in which you just have the thing because you want it, and that is also fine. But obviously, you still want to have that awareness so that you can differentiate between, okay, what do I actually want because I want it, and what do I actually want just because I'm bored? So if you're craving something, but you think maybe it's stress, maybe it's boredom, remove yourself from that situation. Go outside of the room, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, do something different, distract yourself, come back, and if you still want the thing, have the thing. And then again, remind yourself that you're having it because there's no good or bad. You are balanced, you are at peace with food, and your body needs fuel and enjoyment. Food is not just fuel. Food is also memories. It's also enjoyment. It's also all of these things. And also as well, it's important to note that if you still do want it, even if you're not hungry, it's important to have the thing, because again, then what you're doing is you're not then restricting it to then end up overeating it later down the line. Because generally when you try and restrict something, you will then end up overeating it at a later date because you kind of reinforce this mindset of, I shouldn't have this thing. And then what I also need to think about is an off-plan reframe. If I had £1 for every time someone said to me, oh, I ate off-plan, oh my God, I'm not on plan, I fell off track, etc., I would be filthy rich. The thing is, majority of people, all of my clients, they don't have specific plans for food. They don't have specific meal plans, because for me, I do not believe that there is a place for specific meal plans with certain people, 100%. For majority of people, especially the clients that I work with, following a specific meal plan is not going to teach them how to eat for themselves. It's not going to teach them how to improve their relationship with food. It's not teaching them how to include a variety of things within their diet. Yes, I do flexible meal plans and we do all of these kind of different things, but I am talking about strict meal plans in which your coach or someone is going, right, this is what you're eating every single day. Yeah. If you are following a strict meal plan, then yes, you may have on plan, off plan. But if you are not, there is no off plan, because often when you think of something as off plan, that associates it with being negative. So then when you have a chocolate bar that's off plan, you then associate that with being a negative thing, a bad thing, like you've done something wrong. This whole like cheating on your diet, like it's not a thing. And when that happens, that then reinforces this kind of like good bad cycle that you shouldn't be having these things. And that is not the truth. Generally, we are aiming for good health and good life. We're aiming for balance and relationship with food, a life where you can fuel your body because it feels good, and that's what makes you feel the best, and it makes your skin glow and it makes you feel energized. But you can also eat the foods that you want that are less nutritious, because that's the balance you have with no guilt. Yeah, because saying pretend that's you're off plan and you've done all this is never going to bring you a positive relationship with food. So next time your day doesn't go to plan, or you eat something that maybe you hadn't accounted for, maybe you finish your meal and you're like, oh, I didn't actually need all that. Maybe you have an extra snack that you're actually like, oh, I probably didn't need that. Maybe you do end up eating a few too many biscuits and you're like, why didn't I just stop? I want you to reframe. I want you to use this not as an opportunity to throw the towel in, but as an opportunity to remember that it actually doesn't mean anything about you or your journey, and therefore you get to decide whether or not you let it impact the actions that you take. I want you to remember that off plan is not a thing unless you make it a thing. Because often what we'll do is we'll make it a thing, we'll make it a negative thing, we'll associate it with negativity, which then gives us a reason then to throw the towel in, to stop what we're doing and then restart in a few days. And we just continue this cycle. But you decide whether you're going to go, oh my God, I've messed up because I'm off plan. Okay, now I'm going to throw the towel in, don't care, I'll start again on Monday. You decide whether you do that or whether you go, do you know what, it's not really off plan. It's actually just maybe I have eaten a little bit more than I wanted to, but that's okay. It doesn't mean anything about me. I'm just going to carry on doing what I'm doing as normal. You get to decide whether or not you let it impact your actions. And in line with this, the mindset shift that I really want you to think about in terms of these, this awareness and this kind of off-plan reframe is it doesn't mean anything about you. When you decide that because you've overeaten, that means you're never going to be able to stick to a diet, you're always going to feel unhappy, you're never going to feel confident, or when you decide that because you've had a day where you've overeaten, you're never going to be in control of food, you're never going to be able to enjoy foods and, eat them within moderation. When you make those things mean something about you, that's when it then impacts your actions, because that's when you then go, you let it then impact your identity in the way that you see yourself, and that then impacts your emotions and it impacts your actions. You don't have to make things mean something about you. You can just have a day where you eat more food and it doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean you weren't in control. It doesn't mean you can't control yourself around food. It doesn't mean you're not allowed these foods. It doesn't mean any of those things. That's what I really, really want you to remember is it doesn't mean anything about you. You're a human, you're not a robot. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to push yourself and do what you can when you can. So day one, let's implement that meal structure. Let's continuously remind yourself that this is not about dieting. This is about fueling your body because your body needs fuel. And this is about saying no to diet culture. Day two, I want you to practice eating without guilt. Having something that you wouldn't normally have, staying in control of it, telling yourself why you're doing it, because you're building a positive relationship with food, because no foods are off limits, no foods are off bounds, because there is room for everything and you are always in control. And I want you to make peace with foods. Remember, there's no good, there's no bad. There's simply more nutritious and less nutritious. And yes, the majority of our diet needs to be more nutritious, but that does not mean that there is not space for less nutritious, because there is. We need that balance of everything. Then day three, I want you to have that awareness practice. So if you are finding yourself in a position where all you're doing is thinking about food, go and distract yourself, do something different, come back. If you still want the thing, have the thing. And reframe this off plan. Off plan doesn't mean you're out of control. It doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean you need to stop and then start again. It doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean anything. I want you to really reframe this, not as a, oh my God, I failed, but actually reframe and use this as an opportunity to prove to yourself that you can still focus on what you can do, and actually it doesn't mean anything about you, because you decide whether or not you let it impact your actions. And that is the mindset shift. It doesn't mean anything about you. I am going to pop some journal and reflections here in a second, so you can take a photo of them, screenshot them if you want. And sometimes these can be really helpful as well, just to kind of sit down and really have a think about what your relationship with food is like, why it is the way that it is, what you can do to improve it, and just really kind of like get you thinking about food as well, because sometimes you really need to look at like where these thoughts come from. And sometimes that will be a case of you being like, actually this is completely irrational. Sometimes it may be a case of, okay, it's from this circumstance, but if I work back and I look at it, it doesn't really mean anything. And always think about your dream relationship with food. How does that look? How does food freedom look to you? How does your dream relationship with food look to you? Because when you know this, it also is then so much easier to act in accordance with that. So for example, if your goal is to be able to go out for food and stay in control and not overeat, have what you want but not overeat for the sake of it, not feel guilty, not then binge later on because you're throwing the towel in. If that's your goal, that's how you need to start showing up. And that's not going to be as simple as, okay, that's just suddenly what you start doing. But that can be as simple as, okay, I know that if I go out for food, normally if I don't eat beforehand, that's when I go out and then I just go whatever and I throw the towel in and I overeat because I'm absolutely starving. So now what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make sure I still have a high protein breakfast with lots of nutrients in for breakfast and for lunch, so that when I go for dinner, I'm already satisfied. I can have what I want because I want those foods, but I'm not going to overeat because I'm not absolutely starving. I'm not absolutely ravenous. Then I can prove to myself that I am still in control. And then if I want a dessert after that, I can have a dessert. And then what I need to do after that is, again, go home and then just carry on as normal. Not overeat, not continue to just eat for the sake of it, not wake up the next morning and go, oh my God, why did I do that, and throw the towel in, but actually just carry on as normal. And the more that you do these little things, the more that you prove to yourself that you can do them. So always think long term, what is the goal and how does that look? Because once you know how that looks, that's how you need to start showing up. Because to become that person, you literally need to be that person. You're not going to wake up one day and suddenly have all this control over food. You have to teach yourself to have control over food. And that starts with implementing the things that we've spoken about today. I hope you found that helpful. And if you do have any questions at all, please, please, please just let me know in the comments and I will get back to you. But I promise you, it's not going to be the simplest ride. It's not going to be the easiest ride. It's not going to be the quickest journey. It's not going to be any of those things. But what I can promise you is it's going to be so, so worth it, because a life where you don't have to consistently think about food and be bombarded with food noise and always think about numbers in food and only associate food with kind of fat loss or with being bad or good, that life is so much more enjoyable. Any questions at all, just let me know. But thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.